Katie, you get it. No notes. For me, the most upsetting part of patriarchy is how it treats children. Colonial, capitalistic patriarchy is a hierarchy in which children aren't even on the map.
Right.
They're not even a part of the structure because they hold no capitalistic value whatsoever. They're a liability, they're not an asset. And so they are not officially a part of the chain at all, which means that anyone that puts themselves in proximity to children is taking wild risks with their own sense of safety or belonging or meaning in the chart.
Yeah, pure and undefiled religion is to serve like widows and orphans.
Book of James.
And the most direct correlation to that in our modern society would be what, single moms and kids? I would imagine that in a matriarchal system, those would be the top tier priorities.
In a matriarchal system, you would literally ask, what do children need? And you would build the entire society on what it means to read healthy children. Because healthy children turn into healthy adults. Capitalistic patriarchy in particular relies on having unhealthy adults that can be easily exploited in the future.
Ooh.
And so we actually maintain this structure on purpose. We don't want healthy adults to come out of this. We don't want healthy adults to be contributing to society later on, because healthy adults are not easily exploited. Healthy adults are not easily just pumped into a chain of exploitation. I have a would you rather question for the men. Would you rather relinquish control over hoarding resources and also being able to decide how resources are distributed on planet Earth, but have an absolute abundance of affection, connection, intimacy, and sex? Or would you rather maintain the status quo of scarcity, competition, but like you are now, often be very touch and affection starved and very disconnected? You might be like, this is an insane question, but it's actually not. I just described matriarchy versus patriarchy. The foundational tenet of matriarchy is making sure that everyone's needs are met. And their needs are met. There's a much higher level of social cohesion. Matriarchies are much more sexual and affectionate cultures. Our closest genetic relative, the species most like human beings on planet Earth, which is bonobo apes, is a fabulous example of this. And amongst humans, when you look throughout history to varying degrees, there are plenty of matriarchies that illustrate this. Every single species on Earth that has defenseless young, as humans do, we have actually the most defenseless young, ends up establishing a form of collective community that cares for one another. It isn't to say that in matriarchies men never have power or decision making, but it's only men who have demonstrated that they have the values of the culture and that they do not hoard resources or break social fabric. Anyway, which is it? Give up your decision making over resources but have tons of sex, or maintain the status quo?
The thing with a matriarchy is that there is no top and there is no bottom. It's a circle.
I love what Liz says here about the difference between matriarchy and patriarchy, and for me the most significant difference in matriarchy and patriarchy is the way we treat children. In a matriarchal society where we are kind of in a circular formation, there's not a hierarchy. It's a society based on collaboration and human thriving, like the economy would work for humans, not humans for the economy. Children would be at the center, because in this scenario, the group is committed to human thriving and care. And the group would know that we should center children, their needs, and their thriving, because healthy children grow up to be healthy adults, and healthy adults contribute to the community. In this scenario, children would also be at the center regardless of their socioeconomic background or their color. We would be treating all children as equally important to the future of society. And children would be considered an essential part of society because it continues human thriving. In a capitalistic, patriarchal society, a hierarchy, children actually aren't even in the picture in a hierarchical standard. The only reason children survive in a hierarchy is because there are people willing to put themselves in financial, emotional peril because we don't have any official systems for caring for children. In a capitalist patriarchy, children are an afterthought at best. And then in this system as well, we certainly have a hierarchy of which children we think should survive and thrive well. Of course, wealthy white children we prioritize, and children of color and poor children we discriminate against. And we do this because in a patriarchal capitalistic society, unhealthy children, which is the result of children being neglected in a system, grow up to be unhealthy adults, and unhealthy adults are good for capitalism. Unhealthy adults are much easier to exploit, and they are also much better consumers. In this system, children are purposely at the bottom of the ladder and at the bottom of the system because ultimately we don't actually hope for their thriving. If they thrive, that's a bonus, but we're not designing society for children to thrive. We're just hoping they survive and make it to adulthood when they can be exploited and or consume at levels that give others benefit or gain. Children before the age of 18 in this system are considered liabilities and not assets because they don't offer anything back to the capitalistic system. We also punish and or exclude people who would put themselves in proximity to the well-being of children, and we just sort of all assume that someone who cares well for a child should deserve to be economically disadvantaged. Because of course in this case, the society blames the person who had children. That's your fault. And this is also an individualistic society, whereas a matriarchy is not individualistic. It's a society that acknowledges we're all connected and reliant on each other. This is why you see the birth rate declining in America, is because basically people have just gotten better at capitalism. And if you want people to be good at capitalism and survive in a system that requires people to rely on money, you're going to see people having less children because they've just figured out that if you're going to have children, you're putting yourself at significant disadvantages. Under our current system, we'll continue to see declining birth rates, and we'll also continue to see the fate and peril of children increase, the mental health and health issues of children increase, because our society in no way prioritizes the well-being of children. We won't ever have a world of human thriving without actually restructuring our entire society and making sure children are okay first, because healthy kids will grow into healthy adults, which will lead to a healthy community and society.